the backbone of America.
Mayor Christi Fraga, thank you so much for showing up at my office today.
My pleasure. I love it.
So
Beautiful
first,
office.
thank you. So first I want to read to you something that I made and that my analyst also wrote. The first part's my personal and the second part is his analysis. So I put here, as a resident of the Doral for almost 27 years, I moved our financial firm's headquarters here in 2022. My wife, a Venezuelan exile, and I are raising 2 children born right here in the city. Day after day, we see Doral's safety, cleanliness, beauty, cultural diversity, thriving businesses, and excellent schools turn exile into opportunity for many. This is my analyst's take on Doral is a safe haven for Venezuelan exiles, men and women who fled dictatorship and repression in search of freedom. Here they found refuge and discovered a launchpad for enterprise. Since incorporation in 2003, Doral has skyrocketed from sparsely developed land to a nationally recognized engine of growth. Today, more than 75,000, probably higher, and 10,000 plus businesses call Doral a home. Analysts project 62% job growth, double the U.S. outlook, while unemployment sits near 2%, which is way below the 3.8 average, national average. Median household income is $88,000, above 13% above the U.S. median, and more than 150,000 people commute into Doral each day. For global players such as the Trump National Doral, Carnival, Univision, and the U.S. Southern Command, Money Magazine names Doral one of the best places to live in 2018, and CNN ranked it one of the top U.S. cities for launching a business here. So I've experienced this success story firsthand. As I mentioned, I've been here for so long, probably one of the few 2% residents that have been here 20-something plus years, and so this interview is kind of unique for me because it's close to home,
Yeah.
So let's start with a really easy question. How early in life did you decide one day I'm going to be mayor?
Not very early. Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to be on your podcast. I love it. The backbone of America. And obviously, you're a shining example of that in the business that you and your family have built over the generations. You have a beautiful office, and we're so happy and proud to have you here in Doral. So not only as a resident, but as a business owner. I was not one to say I wanted to be in politics for a very long time. It's not like I was one of the little kids saying I wanted to be in government or politics or that I wanted to run for mayor. It's funny, yesterday I was at a book bag drive and a little kid was like, I want to be mayor one day. That necessarily isn't my story. I found a passion in public service and being a public servant through the work that I was doing on the private sector and my love for Doral. I also moved here very young. I've been here now for 30 years in our community, and I saw a community that was growing and a blank slate, which you don't get to see very often, or a blank canvas. And the opportunity to build a city that our families could thrive in, that our children could thrive in, that we would be able to enjoy as a community. And I wanted to put my 2 cents into that and leave my mark so that our children could enjoy. And I'm very big on that we should be a part of the solutions, right? We all have complaints, but we also have to be a part of the solution. My grandmother used to say, and my grandparents are Cuban exiles, came here with nothing and left a lot behind and did it for their children and their future grandchildren. And my grandmother used to say, Cristi, es mejor ser útil que importante. And I think that was kind of like the little grain that she left that I didn't know what it would become. And I really didn't understand it until I discovered public service. And so in 2012, there was an opportunity that the council of our fairly new city at the time, the city hadn't even been 10 years incorporated, was changing. New mayor, 2 new council members. So the majority of the council was changing. And I was very involved in the business side. And we had experienced several problems as business owners and as residents. And so I saw an opportunity to leave my ideas, my experience. And as someone who had grown up in the city and wanted to raise my family in the city, I felt that it was a representation that the city needed. And that's when I decided to run. And I ran as council member. And then once I was a council member for several years, I knew that my work wasn't necessarily complete and that I would love to serve the city as the mayor.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just noticed that, I moved here in about 97, I think 98. And I thought I moved to Doral, but I just realized 2003 came much later. So what did I move into when I...
Unincorporated Miami-Dade. It was still Doral. It was known as the Doral area, but we actually incorporated in 2003 and officially became the city of Doral.
And who would you attribute who made Doral a city? Who's responsible for that?
I think the true founders of Doral are Doris and Alfred Caskel, who saw the vision and in the 50s bought 2,400 acres for like, I think it was $70,000,
Yeah.
about 2,400 acres and built the Doral Resort. The name Doral, for those who don't know, comes from the name Doris and Alfred Caskel. It's Doral.
Oh, wow.
That's where the name Doral comes from. So in my opinion, they are the true founders of Doral because they believed in something when it was just swampland. People thought they were crazy. And they built the resort. And then they got the PGA involved. And that's what really was a catalyst for Doral to become a community. It was really just dump land out here and farmland. If you notice, we have a lot of county facilities like the incinerator, like solid waste, like the police department, or now the sheriff's department, the elections department, the Federal Reserve, Southcom. That was all like really out west, remote. No one really saw it as an area of growth. And look what we've become, right? So obviously they, to me, were the catalyst of the area and really put vision. And then you had residents that came in and got together. You had a group called One Doral, and you had a group called the West State Federation. First they fought each other, then they came together and decided to fight for incorporation, which means we become an actual city. And it went out to the voters, and they convinced, at that time, I believe there was only about 10,000 residents in the area. And they were able to convince a majority to go to election. They were able to convince the county, and we were incorporated. We were incorporated with some other cities at the same time. So Miami Gardens got their incorporation around the same time as us. So some other newer cities. And funny, I was just in Europe, and people talk about new cities being 200 years old. They're like, oh, it's a new city. It's 200 years old. And I'm like, our city's about to celebrate, in a year, 25 years incorporated.
Yeah.
So we are like micro babies.
Yeah.
But it's had tremendous success. And I am forever grateful to those who decided to make us a city and to our residents who voted and believed in this vision, because it's what's allowed us to have services that make our quality of life better.
Yeah. Now, how many residents here in the Doral area would you say know these two individuals?
Doris and Alfred Caskel.
Yeah, what do they do for a living?
Well, so they're no longer with us. They're a generation of family now. But their great-great-grandson still owns property here. Do you know where, on 97th Avenue and 41st Street, where the McDonald's is and the Walgreens, and across the street with the Einstein Bagel?
Okay, right.
All of that is owned by the Caskel family.
Right.
And their great-great-great-grandson is the one running it now, Danny Caskel. He's a dear friend. And actually, funny story, I introduced him to his wife. She was my assistant. Got married, have two beautiful girls. So they are still very active in the Doral community. They've supported me always. They're dear friends and love this city. They come back all the time. They lived here till just a year ago, where they decided to build a larger home and move a little more west, a little more east and down south. But they're very active here and very involved still.
God, okay.
Yeah. And their family is very big. They have generations, and they're in New York. They're originally from New York. But they still come down here quite a bit.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, back to you. What did you do before your time as mayor?
So I studied finance and accounting. And so I have an accounting company. And so not only did I still do, I still do practice and have my business. So as a public servant, I'm not an administrator. We have different forms of government, and Doral's government, I'm not a strong mayor. So I'm a legislative mayor, and therefore I do have to make income outside of my public service, even though I've dedicated, let's say, more than 100% of my time to this job, which I love. And it's a sacrifice, obviously, that we choose to make. But I have a great team in my personal office that still runs my business. But that is what I do, and I have taken a strong focus on real estate. And so we manage properties. We also do small business, accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll. So that's what our company does.
So you have a thriving business.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the catalyst or the incentive, I guess, to say, now I'm going to spend not just 20 hours a week on this, but I'm going to start spending more and more time. And now you're saying you're spending 100% of your time.
I do spend a lot of my time. I think it's the love that grows and the love that you build for. Again, I didn't know I had such a passion for public service until I started doing it. And my mom will tell you differently. She'll say that she always saw it in me from day one, that I was always like the leader of my friends, like to go do public service initiatives.
Outspoken.
I was very, very outspoken, very involved in my clubs and groups and things. So my mom's like, and most people that have known me for a long time, it's funny, I found a little like yearbook from kindergarten, and the teacher wrote there that one day I would definitely be in public office. And again, I was not one of these, huh?
Did she put what office?
She didn't. She just put, one day you'll be in public office, like for sure. And again, I never had that thought process. I didn't study public, like a political science. I never expected my career path to take that step, but God always has bigger plans for you. And it was put in my path, and I'm really glad that I discovered this passion. And I love what I do, and I do it with a lot of heart. So I have dedicated 100% of my time to it. Still with my businesses as part of what I do, because it is what feeds my family. I always say politics or public service feeds my soul, and my business feeds my family, puts food on the table. So that's kind of the way I try to balance it. But, I think for me, it was the ability to see how you impact people's life positively, the changes you leave. And we should all strive to leave what we found a little bit better than we found it. And that's really what I'm trying to do.
Understood. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So let's discuss now investments.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really embarrassed to say this, but I mean, Doral, one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And I consider myself an astute investor. I spend a lot of my time. I really love what I do. It's my hobby. It's my work. And I've never been able to make money in Doral. Not because I've invested and it's gone bad, just because I've never found the right opportunity, and I've been doing other things, So I'm really embarrassed about that, because so much money has been made in this city.
They're scarce these days. I'm not gonna lie. The opportunity for a really good deal are scarce in Doral these days, because we are just so limited on the amount of land we have, and values have just skyrocketed because it's such a well located, centrally located city for business opportunities. And I think we've done a really great job, and that goes back to that blank canvas we kind of had. We've done a really great job of planning the growth of the city in protecting the characteristics of the neighborhoods. So you have the urban, you have the suburban, more residential zones, you have the commercial, you have the industrial, and we've really done our part in trying to protect that. Now, there's some growth that you don't want to halt growth, and you don't want to stop it. And there is evolution that happens throughout this process. I say Doral is in a constant phase of evolution. So you will see it. And the state has also made a lot of decisions that have taken away local authority, which I'm not in favor of, because they're not here listening to the residents every day. But the state just passed a law 2 years ago called, it's called the Live Local Act, Senate Bill 102.
Yeah.
Which allowed developers to have a fast-track process to build affordable housing in cities without having to go to the local governments. So it completely overpasses our local process. We cannot stop them, and they can build, as long as they're building 40% of affordable housing, they can build in any zoning except for residential. So they can.
You consider that a good thing or a bad thing?
I consider it a bad thing. Not the intent. We do need to incentivize affordable housing to a certain extent. But areas like Miami-Dade, and particularly Doral, that had huge organic growth. And by the way, we already had an incentive in our code for workforce housing, a pretty aggressive incentive to developers, and it had not been taken advantage of, for the exception of one project that took advantage of it. And I think what happens is it can become very dangerous, because now you can see development that wasn't intended for industrial areas, for example. So instead of protecting our industrial areas, which are needed and a huge part of the balance for business, low taxes in our city and the success of our city, you can now see a residential building go up in an area that doesn't have the infrastructure to support it. So where you're trying to make an opportunity for underprivileged families to have housing, you're now putting them at a disadvantage for food deserts, for schools, for transportation, because the city is not building with the thought process of residential in those areas. So while I think the state had good intentions, I don't think they properly thought this out, and we have been impacted. We have 3 projects right now that will impact our city tremendously that we had no say on, and they do not preserve the characteristics of our city that were intended to be preserved and that our residents fought for. That's what you fight for local government for. We're the closest to the people, and when Tallahassee forgets that, it makes decisions for us that impact our families, I don't stand for it.
Got it. And these 3 projects that you consider that are not built to the right specs, I guess, what would you do? Would you have them? They're too large.
We wouldn't allow them in the industrial zones that they were building in. They encroach on areas that should be intended for industrial or commercial uses.
Understood.
So they're farther away from schools. They have no public transit. They have some public transit, but not the amount of public transit that you would offer in an area that was residential. Infrastructure, they have flooding issues. So, while some of that would be improved through and the developers will argue that will be improved through this process, unless you're planning, that's what planning and zoning is for. They analyze this and they say, where do certain developments belong? And so they've taken that right away from the residents. I wouldn't even say from the city. It's not the authority of the city. The residents vote for those city officials to make those decisions. So we get the blame, but those projects didn't come to us. I would have never allowed the monstrosity that's going on 97th Avenue and 41st Street. That they're building. Yeah, that's the first Live Local the first Live Local project that came to our city. It's right on 97th and 41st Street where you have the HSBC Bank right now.
Okay.
They're going to tear that down. You have the 2 office buildings, and they're going to put 600 units.
Oh, that hasn't started yet.
No, it's going to start now. And retail. And it will be a workforce housing, affordable housing, 40% of it. But to me, they're sticking sardines on a sardine can there. We would have never allowed that development in that corner.
The Trump Golf Course, right?
It's more west. More west. 97th Avenue and 41st Street. It's right on the corner across the street from the Publix and the Starbucks. Right. And that project's going to go under development now too. Now they're not doing residential, but Publix bought that shopping center and they're doing a whole rehaul to that shopping center.
So I'm glad that you have a financial background. You do investments. Where do you see the greatest potential to invest in Doral if we're discussing real estate?
If we're discussing real estate, I definitely think it's on the industrial. So industrial is heavily needed right now. We see a lot of these bigger commercial parks or industrial parks like Link Logistics, Prologis. They're looking for tons of land. They're looking for contaminated land. Like they're super interested in the incinerator site and the old dump that's on 58th between 97th and 87th, excuse me. They're interested in filling lakes. I have a project right now that they want to fill a lake.
Why so much need for warehousing? I still do not understand.
We're such a proximity to the airport. Our airport is the gateway to Latin America.
I understand, but when Trump started with the tariffs, I figured a lot of the trade would kind of wind down and there would be more domestic production.
Well, that too, manufacturing too. It's open for manufacturing. You're not off. It's definitely still open for manufacturing, which is whether you manufacture here to export overseas or whatever it is, the airport is a central hub for how you're going to move some of that. So Doral is very attractive to that, and we've seen those prices increase tremendously. So I think that that is, when it comes to real estate, I think that is definitely a sector that's
it's done really well.
Super.
And I imagine it will
attractive.
continue to do well.
Yes.
And you're saying you haven't felt anything regarding the tariffs? Well, just started, I guess. Well, what do you anticipate?
The businesses, I think, feel it definitely, but our import and export is still thriving tremendously. And there was a brief on the state of the ports recently. And what we're seeing is still huge rises.
Well, there was, here's what somebody I read said. They said, because the tariffs have still not taken effect in some cases, people are just importing as much as they can to stock up.
It's not going to stop it anyway. We are a consumption-based economy. And so while I think we will feel some of that impact directly over the course of the next few years until we see more manufacturing here, the point will be that eventually those manufacturers also are not going to rely solely on American consumption.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I think import and export is not going to be challenged by that. And it's anticipated, we would hope it scales. So I think that's definitely on the real estate side an attractive thing to look at. Now, I would say home prices in Doral have been steady. Whether you see a little drop or a high drop, even in 2008, we didn't see the decrease in home prices that you saw across the country in Doral. You just didn't see it. So while there may be more supply now in the market, and there is, and they're moving less, I still think they're very high. I would not think that they're a good investment opportunity. I would be looking at different investments.
Agreed.
In my opinion. I still think that they're way overvalued.
We share that.
I think they're way overvalued. I will give my example. I have lived in the same home for the past 25 years. I would love a bigger home, but I cannot bring myself to pay $2 million for a zero lot line. I just can't bring myself to do it. So I prefer to live in a more modest, small townhouse that's almost basically paid off and use my investment to invest in other areas that I see growth in. North Florida, tremendous growth, more rural areas. I mean, Doral is wonderful, but the reality is the reality. I'm not gonna lie to anybody. It's still very highly valued.
We've seen the majority of the growth. I think most people anticipate that it's unsustainable to continue at this pace.
I think you'll see a little bit of a decrease, and I think you're starting to see it. So we're seeing homes be on the market for longer than 60 days, longer than 90, longer than 180, and they're dropping 100,000. But you're talking about a $2 million home, a zero lot line, 100,000 is not a huge decrease. We're talking investment. You want to come and live in Doral and be a resident, and you have that, go for it. You're going to get the best schools, the best safety, the best, great quality of life. You don't have to leave Doral to have a social life anymore. I mean, we're doing all that for you. But if you want to talk investment, that's a different story. If you have extra cash to invest for your money to make money, you want return on your investment, I wouldn't say it's the right place right now. Could change in a year. I may be sitting here in a different position in a year and tell you it's the time. But when it comes to the commercial and industrial side, if you have an opportunity, seize it, because it's not going anywhere. It's only going to go up. And I'm telling you because I'm seeing it from large commercial or industrial parks owners, Bridge, Link, Prologis. They are Blackstone. They are looking here heavily. They're looking anywhere they can to fill a lake that wasn't a retention site, that may have been, excavation sites. They're looking anywhere they possibly can.
Well, actually, regarding that, so there's a lot of talk about the incinerator. No Doral resident wants that here. Everybody wants to
Definitely not.
And everyone's talking whether it's going to stay or go. But if it does go,
it's going to go.
Is there any idea what it could repurpose as?
So the incinerator is a county facility. So unfortunately, I don't make that decision. It is up to the county. I think we've gotten them to a great place to recognize that Doral has grown tremendously. It's not the place for it. Shouldn't be near any resident. Within half a mile, and in my opinion, within a mile. I understand the challenges the county faces of that we have to do something with the trash. We produce a lot of trash, and actually, Miami-Dade County produces double the national average, which we should be embarrassed to say. And we have taken initiatives as a city to try and incentivize. I'm not for imposing, these things on businesses, but I think we should set the example. So we've done things to eliminate plastic. We're a plastic-free city. We don't have plastics in our city. We've really tried to do our part to set an example because we're not going to fix this problem realistically, unless we make a change internally.
Why are we? That's the first time I ever hear that.
We're higher than the national average. Double.
Not higher. That we're double. That's not higher.
We attribute it to tourism.
Okay.
The cruise ships were the largest destination for cruise ships, and they dump somewhere. They dump here.
Right.
And so we have, and again, this is a county issue. It's not, and I'm not trying to pass the buck, but it's not really I don't run solid waste.
Right.
That's a county mayor issue.
Is it possible that they would just leave it, like they would just shut it down, but just leave the land?
So it will be shut down. It is shut down right now. It is shut down. They cannot make it reoperate. They would have to rebuild. That's going to take 7 to 10 years. They have to find a new location. There's a couple potential sites on the right now being analyzed. I think they need to do a private-public partnership because even if they were to identify Doral to rebuild it again, they need $1.2 billion. The county this year on their budget has a $400 million shortfall. Someone's going to pay it. And we don't necessarily want it to be us because on top of the fact that we pay it, we're also going to have to pay the increases because there is going to be an increase in solid waste. So this is a problem and they need to, I think that the solution is in the private sector. We need to involve the private sector more. They've been reluctant to let go of this service as a county-run service. The way it's been is it's a county-run service but outsourced to a company like Covanta, for example, who was running it. But it was county-owned. So I think they need to look at public-private partnerships, which they are right now. There's 2 companies they are currently negotiating with for possible public-private partnership, and then maybe a land swap deal, so that if one of the county lands don't work because they're all too close to residents, we can find a piece of land that's owned by the private sector and swap with them and give them the land that's on that it's the facility is currently on. Now there's a lot of contamination. They would have to do a lot of remediation, and I think we would see warehouses there. I don't anticipate, and nor do I believe there would be approvals because of the contamination for residential, and I would fight that.
Yeah.
But you can put commercial and industrial. It's absolutely adequate for it, and I think in a good place. Even though we wouldn't want that commercial traffic necessarily in that area, we have to do something. We have to be realistic. Do we want an incinerator? Do we want commercial?
And there's so much land on 8th Street and 137, that west, but I guess that's all a lot of protected land.
Yeah, but first of all, it's all protective. A lot of it's Miccosukee. It's a lot of, a lot of that's protective land, but also it's very close to residential.
I mean, we own some land now. We own like 30 acres out there. I'm talking from 137th on the southern side of 8th Street.
So remember, also you have the
from
Everglades.
There to 177.
So you have the Everglades people and the Everglades protection. So there's a lot of.
You got to put it somewhere, and it has to be in close proximity.
There's a lot of groups and interests that you have to accommodate, right? And
somebody, but
we have to do something with it.
Yeah, if you bother one guy, the other guy gets free. If you don't want to bother this guy, you have
standards, right? And that's, I think, what they finally have come to. No, less than half a mile from a resident.
Right.
They're going to work with the Everglades and the Miccosukee and all that to find a location that works. And I think they've identified some that could really work. So we'll see, I think, some development eventually. It won't be right away. In that land, should they do the land swap. And I think that it's a great benefit to the county because there's a lot of value there. They could either develop them themselves and create revenue for the county. They could, or they could swap it and then have a developer do it. So I think there's a lot of potential for what that could be. And I'm just happy it won't be. And that's one of the things we're negotiating with them, that it will not be a solid waste facility site. They're talking about a transfer site. I argue we don't need one. And if we do, there's another place to put it so that it's far away from residents. So we're still negotiating some of those terms. But I am very confident. And I think from the last vote they took, it will not be in Doral anymore.
Understood. All right. So we'll move on. So the Trump National Doral, major employer.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you weren't mayor the first time around that he was.
I wasn't, but I was a councilwoman. I was very involved. I was the vice mayor, and yeah.
How has his presidency, the first and second, how does it impacted Doral?
It puts us on the world's map for sure, on the world stage. And I'm talking now about having the G20 here, and I mean it's so. So I think that definitely him being the president, his properties are in his. I won't say in his mouth a lot, but he does talk about it a lot, which is great. He loves Doral. He loves this property. It's like, if he's not in West Palm, he's here. So it definitely has put us on a world stage. It also has created challenges for us. Every time he comes here, it costs us a lot of money. We do not get reimbursed from the federal government to provide protection and security, and we're required to. Now they do obviously bring Secret Service and Homeland, and everybody's involved.
At what level are you required to?
100%. We have to have guys there 24/7.
No, but I mean, guys, is that 2 guys or 100?
No. Our entire force is on deck when he's here.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. You don't want a problem like you saw in,
But why would that be additional costs if they're not patrolling one side, they're patrolling the other side?
Because it's overtime. We don't have our force working 24/7. So you got a lot of overtime, and our TRT people are out. It's special ops. It's the specialized units that cost us more money. They're not activated every day.
Understood.
So yeah, it cost us. We actually asked the state to see if they would help us in reimbursing about $700,000 that it cost us last year. We asked for I'm
sure it brings
a bigger mobile command unit. So
does it bring a lot of revenue when he comes down here?
No, on the contrary, it costs us money. Now, could there be revenue generating?
Not for the county. I meant for businesses. I mean, I remember going out there one day, which is like 3 blocks from here, and there's like 100 reporters outside. Yeah. And so for you, I guess it's not a whole lot.
Really. No, I prefer to see the PGA come back. That generates revenue for us.
Right.
And they're negotiating in that right now. And so I think there is certain benefits, and obviously people that follow him and are big fans, they will come to visit the resort, and and they follow that, and and so he does attract certain,
Yeah. Think about Mar-a-Lago, for example. Think about what
the
it's
memberships
done.
are more expensive now.
But I mean, everything surrounding it, like you find out Elon Musk buys a penthouse in some building, and then everything around it just becomes more valuable.
And his new development will do that. There will be some.
The 1,500 condos.
The 1,500 condos, yeah.
I was thinking about that. 1,500 condos. I think it's 5,000 estimated residences. Isn't that like 7% of the entire city's?
It's big. And actually, when I came in, they had approved almost double that. It was like, we reduced it by 1,000 units.
Wow.
When I came in, he had gotten approval for like 2,400 units or
yeah.
something. I don't remember the exact number.
I don't know much about it.
He's not a huge fan because I have cost him, but I was very realistic and I said to him, I'm doing the same thing you do for our country. I'm fighting for my community. I don't think neither for you and for what you really want to do there nor for us is it beneficial to stick all those units in, it's just traffic for mobility. It's going to be a nightmare. Yeah. I understand the improvements that you're making, but that is a landlocked zone. It's not like you can open up new entrances. You have 41st Street and 87th Avenue. That's all you got. You can't expand the lanes. So unless you're looking to bring people in through helicopter or Joby or some type of mobile, like vertical takeoff, Uber, I don't know how you're going to get people in and out. Like I get that these are apartments for very wealthy people. And they made this argument that 20% of the residents will be, snowbirds or they won't be annual residents. I go, how do we guarantee that? So we did what we could and we negotiated and I held the project back for a bit to negotiate and get him to the table. And we were able to get his team to the table to bring down the density, which I think was the right thing to do. They still did get the heights of the downtown. By the way, he had the right to do like the current development rights he had on that property allowed him to do an additional 800 units. So he had development rights.
He chose not to.
No, he wanted more. So that's why they changed it to a downtown. So it was originally a community mixed use zoning.
Okay.
And he changed it to downtown mixed use. That's what gave him the additional development.
Yeah, but I don't know.
He wanted the heights. So that's
another world.
That's the technical side of the zoning, planning and zoning. And again, going back to the blank canvas and build and and making sure that things are done responsibly.
Yeah. How will it impact? I mean, there's 1,500 units at an average of saying $2 million a piece.
It'll impact our revenue.
I mean, you're talking. I mean, when I was looking for a house recently at Doral Estates, that's in that range, 2 million or a little bit higher. But I mean, it's not 1,500 houses or condos. There's maybe 100 houses there, if that,
Yeah. I mean, it's going to impact us positively as well, too, right? In our revenue and values, I think will be impacted. It's a good thing. I mean, development's not ever a bad thing. It's about having controlled, responsible development. And what I try and explain to people is people have property rights. So we can't just say no. There has to be like a valid, viable reason that is arguable in court as to why you say no, because now you're taking people's property rights away. You have a right to develop. Now, our code tells you what you have a right to develop. So if you, and we can't take away uses from you because that's a taking. So if you have right now an industrial, like let's say you have a piece of land and it's currently zoned industrial or it's currently zoned commercial. If I arbitrarily change your zoning without your consent, I could be doing a down zoning and costing you money.
Yeah, I agree.
So I can't do that. Now I can do what's called opportunity zones, overlays, which can give you like the intent of what I would like. But you as an owner still have your rights that run with your property. You have the rights that run with your property to do what you can do. I can't take those away from you. Now you can alter and come to the city and petition to make a change that is either in line with what we want or not. And then I have the right to say no. As long as you're building within your rights, I could change and say, you know what, you're right. Maybe that area does merit a change. But I could say no, and now I have a reason to say no. But I can't arbitrarily just say, no, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to build anymore. I'm taking your
any businessman would agree with you. They're not buying
so
for...
this is capitalism. So I know when residents come in, you shouldn't allow them to build anymore. I'm like, it's never going to happen. Like we're in La Vaquita, we're on 107th and 41st. Okay, we would have all loved to see the Vaquitas there forever and 170 acres of vacant land. The reality is, eventually someone was going to want to make money there. Yeah, it was going to get built. So they built what they were allowed to build by right, which is industrial and commercial, which is the use, the land, the zoning of that land. I would have liked to have seen something different there, but the residents were so against more residential that the current council at that time, and I wasn't on the council when that happened, that's the 2 years I was out, that I went to the school board, basically said, we don't want to fight the residents, so you can't do residential. You have to do what you're allowed to do by right.
What was it zoned for?
Industrial and commercial.
Oh, I see.
GU, general
We ended
use.
up going with that.
So they ended up going with that. But truthfully, a mix of uses would have been better in that area.
Yeah.
Because you lower the traffic, you lower the trips generated. I put this to the residents all the time, like, you don't want any more residential. How many trips do you think a residential unit produces a day on average?
Very little. 5, 6.
Let's take a 3-bedroom single family home. An apartment too, 2-bedroom, but 3-bedroom, let's take a single family home, 3 bedrooms. How many trips
you're saying
generated? How many
car trips?
How many trips? Because everybody's argument is more traffic, more traffic, more traffic. How many trips do you think it generates? And what would be logically to you? You're a businessman. You're
people, they leave 3, 4, 5 times
are,
without in and come back out 10 times if that.
If that, it's even less. It's actually probably because they don't say, because not a 3-bedroom house doesn't necessarily have 4 cars. In Miami, you have 4 cars.
No, here there's space for 2.
Okay, but it's supposed to
5,
be
6.
Generate 5 to 6 trips a day. How many trips do you think a 20,000 square foot warehouse generates?
50.
What is the sole purpose of business?
Yeah, get
to create revenue, customers in and out. So what do you prefer in your community? More commercial, industrial, or more residential?
Yeah. And it's not necessarily cars.
And I'm not advocating for either. You have to keep a balance. The hardest thing that we do is keeping that balance, finding equilibrium to make sure that our tax base is healthy, that we can provide services, that we're not disrupting the characteristics of each neighborhood. But by just saying no more residential, we want no more development, that's not realistic. So I have to make the best decision possible for the growth of our city. Yeah. And the truth is, if you tell me commercial generates less trips than a household, that is absolutely crazy. Because a business wants 100 people to come in and out of the door a day. And each of those people come with 1 car and they come and go. So that's 2 trips generated by 1 customer.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'm happy about the Whole Foods. It's there.
Yeah, we're happy about Whole Foods.
All the warehouses. I don't know what they're going to do there, but I was excited about the
I will tell you, I did approve the site plan. The site plan did come to me because by the time I came back, everything was approved for exception of the site plan. And we did study very, very heavily keeping the traffic it closed in, like keeping the concentrated, keeping the traffic and the flow. So 112th Avenue will help a lot. It's going to open up now. I'm fighting with them to open it before school starts. I don't necessarily know that's going to happen, but if not, it'll be open a month later. And so 112th Avenue, so we're trying to keep all of the traffic condensed into that section. That will lead into the overpass to the turnpike. Trucks cannot go to 41st Street. They'll have to go down to 12th if they're going to the airport. So we are working. The flow of traffic was very well thought out. There will be an expansion of 107th. The lights will be changed. That's why there's been a lot of construction there. There was a street closed for a while. So we spent a lot of time with them on making sure that the traffic was kept, there's a name for it, but now it's escaping me, kept isolated to the inside of that. It will spill out to some point, but I think we did a really good job of making sure the flow of traffic worked.
You got it. Well, let's move on.
Yeah.
You seem very business oriented. You definitely know your numbers. If we were going to consider spending $2 million in a business in Doral, not real estate, a business, and I know you own an accounting firm, so I mean, besides an accounting firm, what business would you think would thrive here in Doral? And it would be a good risk reward.
I think, anything that has to do with technology right now, I think is the way of the future. So technology-based companies, I think in Doral, family-oriented businesses, whether it's, something for children, I don't know if you heard this Kid Strong business gym opened up for children, and it is like booming.
Yeah.
So I think here we invest heavily in our youth and our kids. And so anything that has to do with like kids and kids of technology, would be amazing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, $2 million is a lot. You probably don't need that much for a business like that. But, I think healthcare is another one that's booming in our city tremendously. Healthcare.
Regarding the kids, so I have a 2-year-old and 8-month-old. And my wife is telling me that she's taking trips to Fort Lauderdale
Mhm.
for kids related. And I'm thinking, you're driving 45 minutes?
Yeah. So there is a camp that I would love to get here, and I'm working on it. I don't want to spill the beans. Someone's gonna take my idea, but it's a camp for coding for kids. But it's kind of like a Kuman, like a Kuman. Have you seen Kuman, which is like a
Okay.
tutoring?
But you're talking for like bigger kids.
Mm-mm.
Coding for kids?
Mhm.
My 2-year-old's not going to code.
You'd be surprised. Does your
Really?
2-year-old work on a phone? Does he use his own? Does he scroll through YouTube?
Yeah, he does. But I don't know if he knows what
It's
he's
the
doing.
way of the future. They will teach them.
Okay, that's cool.
Mhm.
And what
It
is
is
it
a
like?
whole business.
An advanced learning kind of?
It's basically a tutoring for kids to teach them what our future is going into. All AI, coding,
That's pretty cool.
IT. Yeah, you start them at a very, very
Sooner the better.
STEM. They're STEM programs, very, very young age. But it's a private business, and it is like they have no space. They don't have one here in Miami-Dade, but they are like breaking at the seams. Anybody who opens that here in Doral will do very well. They will get their return.
So you mentioned the kids thing. What was the other one?
Healthcare,
Healthcare.
another one that
What kind of healthcare?
in my opinion, I think we are starting to see an aging population that we're not ready to take care of. So one of the things I'm doing actually right now, we just bought a piece of land as a city. We had no land left. And so last year was one of my priorities to buy a piece of land for the city, about 10 acres. And I'm looking to build housing for seniors, affordable housing with services for our senior citizens and special needs community, because we're seeing them age out and nowhere for them to go.
Okay.
So there is going to be a nursing facility that will be opening soon, but I think that is something that Doral is lacking. It is a gap in our services that could be profitable. You have to know what you're doing and be in the business, but it's definitely an opportunity in Doral.
Sure. Now, you mentioned technology being, the future. Of course it is. And there's, individuals like Francis Suarez who are leading the charge in AI, and he talks a lot, but I never understand, what is he actually doing? Like,
they're like laying out incentives, for investments to be made here. So just making it easier.
For his city or
for his city, for Miami-Dade. No, for Miami County. The city of Miami. So the city of Miami is its own city. And I would say they're the ones leading that. It has spilled over to us. We had Google looking at us. I'm sorry, not Google, Amazon looking at us for their headquarters for a long time. We didn't have the transit they needed. And so they didn't choose us. But I think that we are doing our best. And actually this year I'm proposing in our budget to have a small business grant and with a competition geared towards this industry to incentivize that type of business to look at Doral more. But I think Francis has done a great job of putting Miami, and therefore Miami-Dade, right? All of us, because everybody says, like, when I go places, I say Doral, and they're like, and actually I say Doral more now, and they're like, oh yes, of course. Yeah. But for a long time, I remember being like, Miami, we're like a suburb of Miami. And they're like, oh, okay. So the city of Miami has done a great job of laying out incentives to attract these large tech companies and equity funds, come to Doral. To come to Miami.
No
and
taxes
set up
for 10 years? What is it?
No, they so there may be business incentives like funding. They have certain funding streams. They'll help them, connect them with other people in the industry that can help grow their businesses. They may give them seed money. They do incubators. Wow. Yeah, they make it easier. We'll help you, a business concierge to make sure you streamline opening your office and you're not spending 2 years in permitting and things like that. That's what we can do.
Is it more action or is it a lot of marketing?
It's both.
Because I can imagine.
Because you can market the heck out of it, but if you're not putting it into practice and actually having action on it, then
well, that's what I'm wondering. Like, for example, what's the latest thing that the city of Miami has done for the AI? Like, any big company that's come down here?
There's been a lot of them, yes, and there's been also, I think, these capital, like the capital companies that give the money, the venture capital companies that are moving their headquarters here. Oh, really? And so then that opens up the door for these smaller businesses to have access to this money, and so now we become the new Silicon Valley. So yes, so it's about building those relationships. It's about going to the different conferences, getting in front of these CEOs and getting in front of these people to make sure that they know that I keep saying Doral because I'm always promoting them, but the Miami-Dade means business.
Right.
You know, it's about having an innovation hub. It's about, you know, it's setting the framework so that they have a space to grow in.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I can't give you concrete exactly what he's done because I'm worried about Doral and not
Yeah,
Miami.
no, it's very
But
specific. Even I don't know,
but
honestly. And I'm in kind of in that, not in that field, but a lot of those companies are really not on the map until they are,
Right.
because they're in that incubation phase, you know, and there's a lot of potential, but they haven't gone.
yeah, it's about it is a lot about marketing, right? It is about, you know, we are the hot city in many terms.
You're widely seen as a rising Republican star. You've kept Doral safe and booming. You know, after your time here at City Hall, do you plan on doing anything on the state or federal level, somewhat like Carlos Jimenez?
I don't rule anything out. Yes, I don't think my time in public service is done. I think this definitely has become a big part of my career, my life. I'm not one of those to be against the stereotype of, oh, you know, a career politician. I think we need to change that stereotype. I don't think that we need to see it as a bad thing. You know, for so long we've kind of shied away from these politicians, and I think there's a better way to do it. And so we need to set that tone, and I think we need to set the example. I'm definitely trying to do that, and I think that there's a lot of rising stars that are also doing it different and trying to change that perspective of how people see what's the word that how they quantify politicians, or how they, you know, the stereotype that they have of politicians. But I think that there's a lot of great public servants.
Yeah. No, I guess the idea is that you go comfortable, and then you start like you start having connections, maybe like doing things that you shouldn't be doing. But
why?
Yeah,
Why does it lend itself for that? And I think that's what we need to really. I think that's the discussion we really need to be
maybe
having,
because
right?
the longer that you're in politics, and maybe you do something, then they make it as an excuse. Well,
but
like you should have been in and out.
I
And you
argue
could
also there's experience, and that I'm able to do my job better because I've learned from the time I've been here. I'm not the same person I was 8 years ago or 10 years ago, but I don't see that as a bad thing. I've gained a lot of experience to be able to continue to fight for the things that we should be fighting for.
I'll give you one good reason, and I don't think you'll argue with me on this one. It's the founding fathers set term limits.
Well, I don't disagree with you. There should be. I think there should be term limits.
Things. Is there a term limit on mayor?
Absolutely, yeah. And we fought for it. And we actually made it stronger. There's two 4-year terms, which is a total of 8 years for council. And I'm a huge proponent of term limits. I think our congress people should have term limits. Our senators should have term limits.
Some roles don't have it.
Now, no, none of them have it. And some cities don't either. Now, I will argue this. 8 years is a short period because things take a long time in government. They take a long time. As much as we try and implement the business mindset, they do take a long time. So there's certain projects I've put in motion that I probably won't be able to see through. I won't see them finish. I think 12 years especially when it comes to Congress and Congress and Senate, I would say 12 years is probably a good amount of time. You know, 2-3 terms. That's it. So I would argue for a little more time, but I argue that we should absolutely have term limits. And I think that should be implemented. Unfortunately, you're asking the own legislators to change the law that impact themselves, right? Let's be realistic. Yeah. But I do think that we need to change the stereotype of what a public servant is. And it's about electing the right people. Right. So we need the residents to get more involved. Go out there and vote. Inform yourself about who you're voting for. You can't hide authenticity. You know, you see it. And so I think it's about really getting to know your public officials, your public servants, and electing the right people. And we shouldn't shy away from it being a career as long as you're moving on, right? It shouldn't be stayed in one spot. You have to move on, right? Because you're going to make bigger impacts. I've learned so much in this role, and I know where I came from, that if I go higher and if I go to another place, I'm going to take those values and those principles and implement them to help the people that most need it.
I agree.
Right? And that should be the perspective, and that should be the priority and what you're trying to do. That's the goal. So I don't rule anything out. Like I said, my business continues. I love, I love what I do in that aspect too. So if I'm not in it, I will be the same person, and I don't think it'll change my desire to help and to be active. But yes, I think that there is a potential for me to move up and continue to make good impacts and changes that affect our residents' quality of life.
Excellent. Glad to hear that, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
And then I'll hit you with the last question. if you were to have one or two legacy goals that you would like to be remembered for, what would they be? I know you mentioned 8 years.
She always listened. It's not really so much. Well, there's certain projects I would love, right? Doral Central Park for me is like my legacy. To me, is my legacy project. That was my baby.
Doral
Central Park.
Okay.
The one we just opened, the big park.
Right.
I mean, I saw that from its original designs through the whole bond process. I left, it never got built, and I came back and built it. We built it in 2 years. To me, that's my big legacy project. But and we have a couple other things we're working on right now that I think will be great. I think the senior housing. But for me, when people remember me, I would love for them to remember me by she always listened. She listened and she listened well. To me, that would be the biggest honor, is that people would say
she cared.
She cared.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because you can get a lot of stuff done, but then people say, yeah, she was doing it all for herself. She wanted all the glory and all the...
When people think of Christi Fraga and my time in public service, I want them to be like, she really cared. She really listened. And I tried to really be present in the moment when I'm with residents, and to take everyone's concern and problems as the biggest problem that I could have. And I may have 1 million of them that come to me a day, and I'll hear things from as crazy as ducks are disappearing in my neighborhood. Yes, it's a real problem that came to me with them. Ducks are disappearing in my neighborhood too. I just lost my job and I don't know how to pay for rent. And these two people see these problems so similarly, but they're so different. And to them, they're the biggest problems they have. How do I balance and manage and not lose the sympathy when you're managing these two different categories of problems? I give this lady as much time and effort and help and empathy and sympathy as I do the other one, and help find them a solution where I can. Sometimes I can't find you a solution. I'm very transparent about that, right? I don't overpromise. I want to overdeliver, not overpromise.
You got it. Well, listen, our time here's ended. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was great. Appreciate it. I love it.
Look forward to what you're going to do in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Made in America.